Howdy, and welcome to LeeReads, where I talk about the books I've been reading and enjoying lately. This video is going to be a little bit different. I originally wanted to share about this book while I read it in a reading vlog. That didn't work out. It's also a book that I've been wanting to get to for one of my reading an author's backlist goals I have for the year. And this is an author that is becoming one of my favorites as I read more and more of her work. That's Lois McMaster Bujold. The book is Paladin of Souls. It is an adult fantasy semi-standalone. It slots into the World of the Five Gods series behind Curse of the Chalion, which I read, I think 2 years ago at this point, and was one of my top books that I read that year and had one of my very favorite characters. That said, do you have to read Curse of the Chalion to be able to get to Paladin of Souls? Not necessarily. You may want to, but you don't have to. What really makes him shine, I think, is the character work and the world building when it relates to kind of how this magic god pantheon system works and how those gods do their work through the hands of some humans. Curse of the Chalion has a more epic scope to it, even though the primary, gripping component of it, I think, is the characters and what is going on with the plot. There's death magic and demons. And as the story in the world unfolds, it's very, very gripping. Paladin of Souls takes place 3 years later, and it does center one of the characters from Curse of the Chalion. However, it was one of the more ancillary characters. When it comes to the characters, though, I just enjoyed Ista so much because she is not a type of character that we see a lot in more recently published fantasy. She is a middle-aged woman. She's about 40 years old. And where this story starts, which is 3 years after Curse of the Chalion ends, she feels as though she's not sure what she's living for anymore. She was kind of raised and always set up to be taking care of other people and living for other people, whether that was her children, her spouse, and then, taking care of her aging mother. And now that those responsibilities are gone, whether people have passed on or moved out of her household, she is in this very elevated position and now doesn't know what to do with herself. So she decides to go on this pilgrimage. It's basically an excuse to run away and find herself. Her sense of humor, her wit, it's so enjoyable to read from her perspective. As she embarks into this pilgrimage, it's did she stumble into this or was it fate? Because something is going wrong in one of these border towns and she kind of plunges into the midst of it. She's a very key player because she is one of those people that is or was considered a living saint. She was touched by one of the gods to do their works, which also labeled her as mad. It's not something that she wants, and she's always kind of cursing the gods in her head as some certain events are unfolding. I mentioned death magic in conjunction with Curse of the Chalion. In this book, we delve more into the demons side, and it's very good actually that the reading vlog didn't work out because I don't want to spoil things that happen, but as I was reading, it's I did not expect most of what happened to happen. However, it results in this great combination of characters. Even the side characters I really enjoyed. They're fully fleshed. I would follow them on their adventures if stories got written from their perspectives. There's such heroicism and, people can be great and also they can be terrible in other ways. No one is a perfect person. We all have our flaws, and this book really kind of looks at that with some of the characters. And also there is a very kind of subtle romantic subplot which I think rounds out Paladin of Souls for me a little bit more completely than Curse of the Chalion did. I might have to say that I enjoyed this one a little bit more. Ista really just who she is and what she's willing to do kind of just topped that for me. That said, if you were going by my recommendation, I would say definitely read Curse of the Chalion first. It takes place about 3 years before this one. The events are referenced enough that you know what's going on, but I think it can be nice to have some extra context, especially with the character of Ista herself, because there's all this baggage and she's considered a mad woman, and that's being brought onto the character from the beginning, and she's kind of dealing with that with her interaction with people. Okay, so what's next in this semi-standalone world, this semi-sequel for Curse of the Chalion? There are other books in this world. I believe that the next one that she wrote is The Hallowed Hunt. I don't think that this is actually next, like chronologically. It might be before, I'm really not sure, but it's the one that I'm gonna read next, The Hallowed Hunt, and it's called, depending on where you look, it's number 3 in the series. Then there's also Penric and Desdemona's series. This is Penric's progress, and I also don't know where it takes place in this world, but I really think with how she has structured the kind of pantheon and how the gods and magic works, they can't directly change events. They have to basically recruit people to be willing to do things for them. They have to bestow certain abilities on people in order to get them to enact what they want. But it's really what people do with those abilities that starts making things out of whack. Anyway, it's very fascinating. I'm really enjoying this fantasy world. It has that kind of classic writing feel to it with her style that I really enjoy. I've made a video about that before. And I'm very excited to continue on in this world and with my Lois McMaster Bujold backlist, her fantasy and her science fiction. But maybe I'll be focusing on her fantasy for a little bit. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this little chit-chatty video, and I hope that you give these books a try. And if you do, let me know what you think. As always, don't forget to support your local library. Thanks. Bye.